Well, thank you very much. You're very kind. Well, you're very kind to even stay, so thank you for that. Tom, thank you for that great introduction. First of all, you see a fundamental change in the RNC, and I thank you for the work that's happening in the RNC. They do it with less. They prove it the Republican way. Less people raise more money and provide more opportunity for more victories. So we're very proud about that. And first and foremost, our delegation is close for California back in Washington, D.C. And I will tell you, Daryl's one of my best friends. But I'll give you a little secret. Most mornings when the weather's not snowing, Daryl and I meet about 6:30 in the morning. We go for a bike ride. And we go with the Capitol Police, and we ride through a lot of different ways. And I always know Daryl's a good friend because he always drafts off me. But I want to be very serious about something. Being chairman is a big deal in Washington. A lot of people want to be chairman of Ways and Means and other things because you can write a bill and that's all you have to do. Being chairman of government oversight, the first thing that happens to you is the opposition party starts to try to attack you. They'll say things that aren't true because your job is to bring accountability to government. I have never seen another chairman take this job so well and go so far in a short amount of time. And we need to thank Daryl for that. The more he finds, the more Obama goes after him. You ever read the stories? Half of it, they totally made up. And he has to fight back the same way. Now what's important is if he's going to do the work for us, we have to stand up for him every time we see that. We need to tell them that he won't back down and we won't back down from him. So I challenge you to do that. Now I have some friends here from Kern County. I've got to tell you a little secret. Last night we had Lincoln Day in Kern County. And I thank you for having a wooden podium. Last night we had an acrylic podium. Okay, so I go up, I give a little talk, and I invite up this new freshman, Billy Long from Missouri. He calls it Missouri, so he comes up. And Billy Long was an auctioneer. Billy Long stands up and says, what's the #1 fear for anybody? Public speaking, right? Public speaking. Who is the greatest communicator the Republican Party ever had? Ronald Reagan, right? What is the #1 thing Ronald Reagan told you to do before you got up for your biggest fear? Check your zipper. And he said, Kevin, it's an acrylic podium too. You should have checked it before you got up. So. I think he was joking, but I'm not sure. Look, I'm not going to keep you long, but I want to take you on a journey. Because this journey, which I look in the California Republican Party, is a journey that Daryl and I just walked through in the last couple of years for the nation. When I came to Congress, it was 2006. We had just lost the majority. Time magazine said, can the Republican Party ever be relevant again? I'll give you another secret. We had a leadership meeting and a retreat. One of the people in the room that raised their hand said, we should change the name of our party. That'll help us. I said, we don't have to change anything. The only thing we have to change is make sure we stick to our philosophy and our principles, and we'll be fine. A lot of people laughed when we stood out and created Young Guns. And Darryl was very kind to give him a lot of credit, but Young Guns isn't 3 people. Young Guns was a group of members, and Darryl was one of the lead chargers of it, that said we can go win the majority. And people laughed at us. People laughed at us. But I watch exactly where we were 4 years ago, where this state is. I look at the Democrats, it's only the 3rd time since 1886. They own everything in this state. And I'll tell you what frustrates me. I've lived my entire life in California, 47 years. I watched this state go from #1 to last. Now we've got a good story to tell. So I want to take you on a journey. I want you to ask to follow with me. I want to see if, one, we could do the exact same thing we did back east, we can do here. I personally believe 3 years from now could be the biggest Republican year we've ever had in California. Now, I want to give you a premise. Where we serve today is much like when I first started getting involved in the Republican Party. It's 1980 all over again. Have you ever thought of the similarities of where we are in this country? Think back to 1980. First, we had a Democratic president that was an appeaser. We were fearful that Japan was going to surpass us in our economy. We're fearful about China and India. Iran was holding Americans hostage. Look at what they're doing on the Strait and the development of their weaponry. They're holding the world hostage. We had an energy crisis. Never has gasoline price been this high this soon. We were battling the Soviet Union on what was the greatest form of government, the free market or the idea of communism. We have that same battle today, but now it's not in the Soviet Union, it's in our parks with the Occupy movement. For the first time, every generation has improved from the generation before it in America. And they asked the question, they always asked it, will the next generation be better off? And 1980 was the first time it ever hit 50.3%. Today it sits at 74. The only thing different from 1980 today is we don't have inflation. And what took place? We had a battle, we had a decision, and we didn't fight about the edges. We took a battle for the big ideas. We made a contrast. We had a nominee that stood before and said, don't fly the pastel colors, make them bold. That's exactly what we need to do again. Now, I will tell you, building up to this election, we've gone through 3 wave elections. This election will not be a wave election. And it won't be just wind at our back. Think about it. In 2006, when I ran, it was the wind was right in our face. America wanted to send the president a message. They were upset about the direction of the war, and they changed Congress and changed the Senate. In 2008, we had a presidential election. We had a financial meltdown, and the country said they wanted some more security. They sent another message. 2010, we said that was way too much government in this country. So what the battle of 2012 has to be for the size and scope of what we want this country to look like. We've gone through all the different fights. Let me give you a little analogy. When I was in school, I grew up on the east side of town. I was a smart aleck. I got in a few fights on campus. Every time I got in a fight on campus, that the teacher was there and broke it up before the fight could finish, you know what happened? I had to fight again because no one knew who won. That is what we're going through. Now, the challenge I want to ask before you is, let's not break this fight up. Let's be very clear about what we're fighting for, and let's be very clear what we're going to gain by it. At no other time are you going to find this in your lifetime. Because I will tell you, if we have to make this fight 4 years from now, I don't know that we'll have the same battlefield or the same individuals to help. We'll probably already be in that European-esque country that is not what this country desires to be. California. The Democrats control all. We can sit here and we can mope about it, or we can show them each and every time they're wrong. What a better playing field. You know, when Obama took to office, they had the House and they had the Senate. They could do anything they wanted. And they said they were going to lay out their philosophy. The president stood before us and said, if you gave me the stimulus, unemployment would never go above 8%. 35 months later, it's been consecutively above 8%. Their idea of government being enlarged is that it was going to solve the problem. It has failed. Now we have to show the clear vision of what can succeed. How much government do we want in our lives? How much government do we have? Have you ever stopped for a moment and thought about it? Government tells us how much water should be in our toilets. You laugh about it, but it's true. Government dictates what type of light bulb you can put in your light. They want to dictate what type of health care and what can be provided to us. Then they want to tell us what our religion should say. If there's ever been a time for America to stand up, now is the time. And you know what? We don't have to write a 100-page plan to know how to do it. You know, Ronald Reagan proved it to us. When he stood up and said he was going to defeat the Soviet Union, and the press came to him and said, "What's your plan? What's your plan?" He just kept it to 4 words. We win, they lose. And think about it for a moment. When Ronald Reagan became president, he had Tip O'Neill as Speaker, and he had Ross Gronkowski as Chairman of Ways and Means. And what did he do? He reformed the tax code, unshackled what held America back, and had one of the greatest growth this country has ever seen. Look, I think that same's true for California. 4 years ago, we embarked on a different idea, that we could become the majority in Congress. People laughed at us. So we went around the room and we had to talk to small groups. We even had other members, and Darrell will tell you this, they made fun when we would sit together and have our little dinners, and we'd talk about how we could become a majority. The other members would say, "Oh, those group of members are crazy. They think they can win." Those members who said that then, today think they created Young Guns. Now I'll be the first one to tell you, we're going to do the same thing in California. But the power of the Young Guns is not about individuals, it's about everybody joining together. And there's a few basic things you have to do. We put our free market principles to it. We encourage as many people that want to run for office to engage. But we make everybody have metrics on how to get there. And you know what? We don't endorse in the primary because some people may look good on paper, but we make people earn it. What's wrong with somebody earning the ability to be the nominee? And we have different plateaus for them. When we put it into California, it's called Trailblazers. And it's the same concept that was successful across the country, and it could be successful here. Think for a moment, 3 years from now, what is Jerry Brown going to be, 78 then, wanting to run for re-election? His number 2 lieutenant governor, do you realize what he said this week? They should abolish his office, otherwise you have to work closer with me. They're fighting among themselves. They own these problems. Now the key behind Trailblazers is we take our conservative principles and we don't say no. We find a solution using our conservative principles. Just saying no is what the Democrats do. When we took office, we produced a budget in 4 months, and we didn't walk away from the entitlements, we saved them, so they could be there for the next generation. It may look different, but we saved them. What have the Democrats done for the last 3 years they've been in power over in the Senate? They've never even written a budget. Kim Kardashian could be married and divorced 14 times and they still haven't acted. It's the only place you get rewarded for doing nothing. We need to engage in this election. It's going to be pretty tough for the Republican nominee to play in California because it's expensive, and it's really coming down to 13 states. But think for one moment. We engage now. When we win California, the Democrats can never even play for the presidency again. I will tell you this. I spent my time recruiting across the country, and I found people that no one thought they could win. 87 new freshmen Republican. We defeated 63 Democrat incumbents in that last election, and 61 of them were young guns. So I got to tell you this. I happen to be from California. but I don't get along very well with Pelosi. She's kind of mad at me, right? When I came in office, she got elected Speaker. I spent a lot of time. She's no longer Speaker. Our relationship's unique. I call it a Seinfeld relationship. You ever watch that show, Seinfeld? Remember Jerry had this neighbor called Newman? And he always said, "Hello, Newman." Remember that? Well, that's what Pelosi does to me. She'll go, "Hello, Kevin," right? And any time we have a State of the Union or someone comes speaks to a joint session, you have this escort committee, right? So you have to go back and meet him and you have to walk out. And you kind of walk out in seniority. So the president came right after August. He was going to give us this big jobs idea, just more stimulus. So we go back, we meet him, and we're about to walk out. Now, there are 2 special elections. One in Nevada for Dean Heller's seat, and we were running, the whole campaign was the Democrat opponent was going to be Nancy Pelosi, and we were up by 20 points. And then we're going to have this little race in New York for Wiener's seat that the Democrats have held for 90 years, right? So we line up, and here comes Nancy, and she goes, "Hello, Kevin." And the president's right in front, and there's Eric Cantor. I said, "Well, hello, Nancy." I said, "How was your August?" She said, "Oh, it was good, it was good." I said, "Well, did you do any travel?" "Oh, yes, oh, yes." So I quickly asked her if she's been to Nevada. No, didn't go to Nevada, because she knew they were going to lose that race. So I kind of looked at her and I said, "Nancy, I'm a little puzzled." She says, "What's that, Kevin?" "You just put in $500,000 just for a weekend of ads in New York. I didn't even know it was closed. It's been 90 years since we've had the seat." So she kind of looks odd at me, and we start to walk, and we're walking out, and, she starts looking behind me, and I think she's trying to ignore me. I said, "Well, Nancy, is something wrong?" She said, "Well, Kevin, if you must know, I'm looking back because I always put a freshman in the escort committee, and I'm just trying to see who it is." I said, "Well, Nancy, you can do that because you only have 9 freshmen. We have 87. We can't." I've read all the headlines before I came here today. Is the California Republican Party going to be relevant? Could we ever sustain? Registration has dropped 4 points. The fastest growing party in California has declined a state. You could take the dates out of every single one of those articles and you could move it back 4 years, and you could say that for the National Party and the Congress. The difference is going to be, are we going to let them continue to write that stories, or are we going to decide we've now hit bottom and there's no place but up? You know how they're going to try to take Congress back? And Nancy wants it. She's raising more money today in the minority than she raised when she was Speaker. California, Illinois, and New York. I'm here to ask you to join with us. Darrell and I on the party, we're going to put together a California Congressional Victory Fund, because there's going to be 12 races in California. And we're not going to sit back. We're going to start the young guns and the trailblazers this year. And we're going to win seats. We're going to hold Congress. We're going to let Harry Reid go on his merry way. Is there press in there? Oh, there is. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you a little secret. So Darrell and I go biking in the morning, right? Harry Reid goes walking in the morning. And sometimes when we take the ride up by the zoo, we see Harry Reid. Have you ever seen Harry Reid go walking? He dresses like he's Olivia Newton-John, okay? He puts the headband on. He puts the other, and he's got one of the fastest shuffles I've ever seen. There is a fundamental difference. We need to join and make sure that doesn't happen. Look, I'm going to end you with this. If we capture California, they'll never play again. If we capture California, we can capture any place else. One people can make a major difference. I was just spending my time in Florida where the co-chair is. Florida has the exact same challenges as America and California to be a Republican Party. They're a large state. They're diverse. They have a lot of backgrounds of people coming as immigrants. But you know what? The Republican Party there is the majority. That's the same Republican Party that created Senator Rubio. Marco's made a fundamental difference not only to the Senate but to the nation. We can do the same thing here. Now look, it's what you want to do. Ronald Reagan was very unique, and he always liked to use 4 words. If Ronald Reagan was here today, we'd look on his desk and we'd wonder if we could do it in California again. And you know what his little plaque on his desk said? It can be done. The question is, do we agree with that? You know what? When I was in graduate school, we always learned to do a SWOT analysis. Before you went into anything, before you bought a new business, before you went out to see if you could achieve it, you did a SWOT. You know what a SWOT is? It's strength, it's weakness, it's opportunities, and it's threats. Normally when you talk to elected officials, they just want to tell you what the threats because they want to put fear into you. The reason you start with the strengths because you've got to see how strong you are to see if you could overcome the threats and if there's enough opportunities to make it happen. And can the strengths overcome the weaknesses? Too often, we don't remember who we are as Americans. Before I ask you to walk into this fight, before I ask you to challenge not only California but the nation, I want us to walk through what our strengths are. Because I don't want to hide from anything. What are our strengths as Americans? We start with the largest economy in the world. Yeah, we're fearful that China has $1 trillion in reserves. Do you realize we have $2 trillion? Not with our government, but in the free market of business. Corporate America today has more cash on hand than they had in the last 50 years. Think about it. Why do they have cash on hand? Because they don't know what Obamacare brings. They don't know what the tax code brings. If we could eliminate the uncertainty, that would be the largest stimulus without $1 of government being borrowed. We have the greatest strength in our military at any other time. We are the world leader and we should not walk away from that. There's a fundamental difference about having. Ever since America has become the world leader after World War II, there's never been another world war. There's been conflict, but there's never been another world war. I took a group of freshmen to Israel this summer. Sat there with Shimon Peres, their president. You know what he said to us? There's never been another nation like yours. And it's not what America takes, it's because what it gives. You will give the ultimate sacrifice we do so another country could have freedom, liberty, and better human rights. There's never been anybody like us. We will rebuild them afterwards. We are worried about the energy price. We have the resources to be energy independent. We just have to unshackle, allow our ability to go get it. We are a country that was created by the desire to come here. We still do not create refugees, we still accept them. If you are wealthy and you live in another nation, you still want to come here for your health care, and you still desire to send your children here for their education. That is a great starting point to start from. Now, this country is worth fighting for, the state is worth fighting for, and I believe it can be done. So thank you and God bless.